My name is Aisha. I am 17 years old. I grew up in a small town where people rarely talked about relationships, love, or the first night after marriage. In our home, such topics were not discussed at the dinner table. No one sat with me to explain what to expect, how to feel, or how to prepare myself emotionally. It was always something private, silent, and hidden, almost like a secret that you were supposed to discover on your own. If anyone even mentioned such things, it was only in whispers, and the conversation would quickly change to something else. I never thought I would get married so young. I had dreams of finishing my studies, learning new skills, maybe even traveling to another city. But life had a different plan. My parents believed it was the right time for me to get married. They said it was for my own good, for my future. I loved them. I trusted their decisions, and I respected their choice. I didn't have the courage to say no. In my heart, I hoped they were right, that I would find happiness in this new chapter. The man I was marrying was named Hamza. I had met him only a few times before the wedding. He seemed polite, respectful, and kind, but he was still a stranger in many ways. I didn't know how he would be when we were alone. Would he be gentle? Would he understand me? Or would he expect me to be someone I was not ready to be yet? On the day of my wedding, everything was loud and colorful. The house was full of relatives, laughter, and music. Women were busy adjusting my dress, fixing my hair, and reminding me to smile for the camera. People came to congratulate me, to give blessings, to take pictures. From the outside, it looked like a happy celebration. But inside my heart, there was a storm of emotions, fear, curiosity, and 1,000 unanswered questions. I kept wondering about the first night. I had never spoken about it with my friends. My cousins were either too young or too shy to talk about it. My mother never brought it up. All I knew was from movies or dramas, where everything looked perfect. Beautiful clothes, soft music, a man and woman magically falling into each other's arms. But in my mind, I kept thinking, is that real? Does it hurt? Is it supposed to happen immediately? What if I don't know what to do? When the wedding ended, I was taken to Hamza's house. The lights were soft, the room was decorated with flowers, and my heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. My hands were cold and shaking. I kept fixing my scarf, adjusting my dress, avoiding my reflection in the mirror. I didn't want to see how nervous I looked. Then I heard the sound of the door opening. My heart jumped. Hamza walked in, not quickly but slowly, as if he didn't want to startle me. He smiled, not a big showy smile, but a soft, gentle one that made me feel like he understood how I was feeling. He sat down beside me, leaving a comfortable space between us. "Aisha," he said softly, "you don't have to be nervous. I know this is new for you. It's new for me too. We don't have to rush anything tonight. Let's just talk." His words were like warm sunlight after a cold rain. I felt my shoulders relax a little. I finally looked up and met his eyes. They were calm, patient, and kind. I didn't know what to say at first, but then I whispered, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." He laughed lightly, not in a way that made me feel embarrassed, but in a way that told me he understood. "Me neither," he said. We both smiled. That was the first real moment between us. Not dramatic, not forced, just real. Hamza didn't try to touch me in a way that made me uncomfortable. Instead, he held my hand gently, like it was something precious. In that moment, I realized something important. The first night is not just about physical closeness. It is about trust, comfort, and connection. We talked for hours about our schools, favorite foods, childhood memories, even silly dreams. I told him how I wanted to learn photography one day, and he told me how he loved gardening. Slowly, my fear began to melt away. When he finally reached out to touch my cheek, his hand was warm and steady. I didn't move away. For the first time, I felt safe with him. We hugged, not quickly, not as a formality, but slowly, as if we both needed to feel that closeness. It wasn't just skin touching skin. It was two hearts whispering to each other. "I'm here. You're not alone." Before that night, I thought the first night would be painful, awkward, maybe even scary. But it turned out to be emotional, calm, and meaningful. There was no pressure, no perfect script to follow, just two people learning to understand each other. Many young girls grow up without proper guidance about marriage or intimacy. Everything seems like a mystery. The media shows us fantasy. Friends either laugh about it or avoid it. Families often stay silent. But the truth is, your first night should not be something to fear or feel ashamed of. It should be about connection, not performance, about safety, not pressure. People will tell you that the first night has to be perfect, long, or magical like in the movies. But none of that is true. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to not know what to do. It's okay to take your time. You don't have to perform for anyone. You just need to be honest and present in the moment. Girls often worry about pain, about being judged, about whether they seem too shy or too experienced. Boys often worry about whether they can meet expectations, whether their partner will enjoy the moment, whether they are doing things right. These worries can create a wall between two people. But most partners, if they truly care, are just as nervous and just as eager to make each other feel safe. The most important key is communication. Talk to your partner. Tell them if you're uncomfortable. Tell them what makes you feel safe. Respect each other's boundaries. Kindness is more attractive than appearance. Patience is more romantic than any grand gesture. Listening is more powerful than pretending to know everything. Your first time together is not a test. It is not a competition. It is the beginning of a shared journey. It can be emotional, sweet, slow, or even awkward, and that is perfectly fine. You are not there to pass or fail. You are there to connect, to learn, and to grow together. I cried quietly before my wedding night because I thought it would be something to endure. But it turned out to be something to treasure. We laughed, we talked, we held hands, and we began to build trust. That night taught me that love is not about rushing into anything. It's about creating a safe space where two people can be themselves. So to every young person out there, whether you are a girl or a boy, remember this: you deserve respect, patience, and understanding. You don't need to follow fake standards or compare your story to anyone else's. Your experience is your own. Let it be real. Let it be gentle. And let it be full of meaning. Love is not about pressure. It is about presence. It is about being human together. And that is what makes the first night truly special. Hamza and I kept talking that night, long after the house became quiet. The sounds of laughter and music from the wedding had faded into the distance, replaced by the gentle ticking of the wall clock. I remember glancing at the clock once. It was almost 2 a.m, but neither of us felt sleepy. We were both in that strange space where everything is new and time doesn't feel real. He asked me questions about my life, not just the big things like school or hobbies, but little details too. "What was your favorite subject in school?" he asked. "English," I replied. "I like how words can make you feel things." "That's interesting," he smiled. "I always liked science, but I was terrible at remembering formulas." We laughed about small things, like how I once tried to make a cake and forgot to add sugar, and how he once got locked outside his own house because he left his keys inside. Those stories may have been simple, but they made us feel close. They showed each other our human side. Not perfect, not like the polished images in movies, but real. At one point, Hamza looked at me seriously and said, "I know you didn't choose this marriage yourself. I know you're young and maybe you wanted more time. I just want you to know, I'm not here to take anything from you. I want to give you comfort and respect." Those words stayed with me. They melted a fear I had carried for months. No one had told me that the right partner doesn't make you rush. The right partner waits for your heart to be ready. He noticed my hands were still cold. Without asking, he got up, poured water into a glass, and handed it to me. Then he said, "If you're feeling tired, we can rest, or we can just keep talking. Whatever makes you feel better." I chose to keep talking, because for the first time that night, I wasn't thinking about the first night the way I had before. It no longer felt like a test or a moment I had to pass. It was just a quiet evening where two people were learning who they were to each other. We talked about our childhood dreams. I told him I once wanted to become a writer, and he told me he used to imagine being a pilot. "Not because I love flying," he admitted, "but because I wanted to see new places without buying tickets." I laughed so much at that. He asked me if I missed my home already. I said yes, and my voice broke a little. I told him I would miss my mother's cooking, my father's morning tea, the way my younger brother would play, his music too loud. Hamza didn't tell me to stop crying. He just let me talk, and every now and then he'd say, "I understand," or "That must be hard." Those simple responses meant more than any perfect speech. When I finally became quiet, he said, "Aisha, this is your home too now, but I don't expect you to feel that right away. Take your time." That was the thing. He gave me time. We eventually sat closer. Not because he pulled me, but because I leaned toward him. He placed his arm gently around my shoulder, and I felt a warmth that wasn't just from his body. It was from the safety he gave me. As the hours passed, the conversation slowed, but the silence wasn't heavy. It was a peaceful kind of quiet, the kind you get when you don't need to fill every second with words. I rested my head lightly against him. I could hear his heartbeat steady and calm. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep like that, still in my wedding dress, still holding his hand. When I woke up in the early morning, the first light was coming through the window. Hamza was still there, sitting beside me, half asleep but not letting go of my hand. That morning, instead of jumping into our new roles as husband and wife in the way people expect, we took it slowly. We had breakfast together, simple bread and tea. He didn't act like a man who had claimed something. He acted like a friend who wanted to share his life. Over the next few days, I learned something important. The first night is not the only night that matters. People talk about it as if it's the single moment that defines your marriage. But the truth is, it's only the beginning. What happens after, the way you treat each other every day, that's what really shapes your relationship. I began to notice little things Hamza did. He always asked if I was comfortable before making plans. He introduced me to his friends as my wife Aisha, with a tone that carried pride, not ownership. When relatives visited and tried to ask personal questions that made me uncomfortable, he would change the subject and protect my privacy. One evening, about a week after the wedding, we were sitting outside watching the sunset. I asked him, "Were you nervous on our first night?" He smiled. "Yes. I was afraid you might think I was impatient. I didn't want to make you feel like you had to give me anything before you were ready." "Why?" I asked softly. "Because I think love is something you build," he said. "It's not something you take in a hurry. If I rush, I might break something delicate, and I don't want to break us." That sentence stayed with me for a long time. Not every girl is as lucky as I was. Some don't get partners who listen. Some feel forced to smile through pain. That's why I want to share this story. Not to create some perfect example, but to say that the first night can be safe, calm, and filled with respect. For anyone who is worried about their first night, I want to tell you, breathe. You don't need to act like the movies. You don't need to meet impossible expectations. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to be with someone who values your comfort over their desire. The truth is, no one teaches us these things clearly. Families avoid the subject. Friends only joke about it. Media turns it into a fantasy or a performance. But real love doesn't work like that. Real love starts in moments of patience, small acts of care, and the courage to be vulnerable. I once thought the first night was the finish line, that once it happened, everything would be complete. But now I know it's just the starting point. What matters is not what you do in those few hours, but how you continue to treat each other in the days, months, and years that follow. And so, when people ask me what my first night was like, I tell them the truth. It was not like the movies, and it was not like the warnings you hear from people who want to scare you. It was soft. It was human. It was the first step toward building trust with someone who cared enough to wait. Love doesn't rush. Respect doesn't push. And a first night worth remembering is one where you go to sleep feeling safe, not pressured. That's the story I will always carry with me.